Hello everyone and welcome back to my true crime channel. Today I'm going to be talking about a new development, a new break in the case of missing person Suzy Lamplugh. It is one of the most famous missing persons cases in the UK. It is extremely well known, but tragically it still remains unsolved to this day. Now, there are quite a few strange things about Suzy's case. One is how her car was found, the car that she'd driven to meet Mr Kipper, the client that she was due to be showing around a house in Fulham, London, on the day she disappeared. Suzy's car was found with the handbrake down. Certain items of Suzy's were still found in the car, her purse and other belongings, but weirdly, the car keys for the car were never found. Now, there has recently been some new information that has never been leaked to the media before, that the passenger door was locked, but the driver's door was not locked. We're already aware of that. But something I wasn't aware of that's recently come to light is that the driver's seat was pushed all the way back like that in a position that Suzy wouldn't have been able to drive him. Now, all of that is very mysterious and does lead me and potentially other people to believe that perhaps Suzy came to harm in her car or was abducted by someone from her car. Now, as most people are aware of this case, Suzy was spotted by numerous witnesses talking to a man on Sherrolds Lane in Fulham on the day she disappears. That man was later thought to be John Cannan, who's currently in prison serving a life sentence for murder. He's a very sick and twisted individual, and I really, really hope he had nothing to do with Suzy's disappearance. So, because Suzy was seen talking to a man by one witness and another witness she was seen to be arguing with the man, the theory that she was abducted or went back to her car and then was taken from the car or attacked in her car does now seem completely plausible. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details of the case because I've covered it in another one of my videos, but murderer John Cannan has long been a suspect in the disappearance of Suzy. And could it be that he abducted her and murdered her? Could it be that that is what actually happened here? We still don't know. John Cannan has never admitted to it, but what's really weird about this case, and I want to mention, is that a black BMW was seen at the time of Suzy's disappearance in the location that she was last known to be in. And it was later found that a black BMW matching the one that was spotted by a member of the public was owned by no other than John Cannan at that time. Now, one of John Cannan's ex-girlfriends claims that he admitted to the murder of Suzy to her. He claimed to have buried her body in barracks, army barracks somewhere within the UK. That location was searched and tragically Suzy's body was never found. Not only that, John Cannan had a cellmate who claims, although this could be untrue, but who claims John admitted to him about Suzy's murder, said it was him, and that he'd buried her under the patio of his mother's house in England. His mother's house was searched, the garden was searched, the patio was pulled up, and Suzy was never found. So could it be a complete red herring that John Cannan is involved? I'm not so sure. There are links with another murderer, Ipswich murderer Steve Wright. Suzy worked on a boat, a cruise liner, with Steve Wright in the early 80s, a few years before her murder. And could it be that that meeting, maybe a meeting that went on that boat in 1982, could have eventually resulted in Suzy's murder? Now, a car was recovered in the year 2000 that belonged to murderer John Cannan, and it had a very strange registration number plate. I'm going to read you what the registration was and then explain a bit about why it's strange. The reg was SLP 386S. Now, the reason that is strange is because SLP could be a shortening for Suzy Lamplugh. Not only that, she was his third victim and she died or was murdered. If it was John Cannan, it was his third victim. Let me just caveat that. So 386 could stand for Suzy being his third victim, the third person he'd murdered, and 86 could be 1986 for the year that Suzy was murdered. So could SLP 386S stand for Suzy Lamplugh, third murder victim, 1986? It's quite a long shot. It could be that it's not feasible, but a police detective within the UK does believe that that's true, and that's why the reg had been specially made for horrible John Cannan's car to show off that he'd killed Suzy. Now, the main bit of new information that I want to bring to you guys that's come to light is that somebody claims the year after Suzy's murder in 1987 that they witnessed John Cannan somewhere within the UK throwing an extremely large and heavy suitcase into a river. Now, could it be, tragically, that that was Suzy's body being thrown into a river and that John Cannan was the one that murdered Suzy? Now, a lorry driver claims that one day in 1987 at around 5 a.m. in the morning, he was walking to work and that he comes face to face with John Cannan on a canal. Now, this lorry driver claims he came face to face with John Cannan, who was pushing a very large trolley, a supermarket trolley, that had a very large suitcase in it. Now, because it was 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm presuming this lorry driver found John Cannan quite sinister and strange, the two men pass. The lorry driver continues to walk to work, where he's going to get his lorry, probably at a depot where the lorries are kept, and go off and do his job for the day. John Cannan goes the other way, but obviously the guy doesn't look back for a few seconds. Suddenly he hears a splash, which I'm guessing was the suitcase being thrown into the river. He looks back and sees John Cannan running off, legging it. Now, the lorry driver, unnerved by what he had just witnessed and what he had just seen, did report it to the police. In fact, he reported it to the police numerous times, hoping that they would pay attention. Tragically, the lorry driver has since passed away, but at the time of the incident in 1987, he very much did try his best to report it to the police. Now, the second time that this witness reported what he'd seen was the year after it had occurred. He'd heard about the murder of a lady called Shirley that John Cannan had been convicted of. He saw John Cannan's picture in the newspaper and was convinced it was the same man he'd seen on the London Canal throwing the suitcase into the river. Now, this guy was so convinced that this was John Cannan and so worried that the murder of Suzy had gone unsolved and that the police weren't really listening to his witness reports. He cannot believe the fact that it could be John Cannan. He needs to see John Cannan in the flesh. And shockingly, I just want to make sure this right, he goes to the court case for the murder of the woman called Shirley that John Cannan was convicted of. Let me just check that I get this right. He went to the subsequent 1989 trial at Exeter Crown Court to see John Cannan in the flesh. He sees John Cannan in the flesh. And if he wasn't certain before that was the man he saw on the canal throwing the body in the suitcase, well, potentially a body in a suitcase, into the river, he was certain now. Now, as I said, the lorry driver reported this to the police. It was the Brentford police in the UK, and it was at least 3 times that he reports it. The third and final time is after seeing John Cannan in court, where the lorry driver is convinced he saw this same man on the canal in London, throwing the suitcase into the river that could have contained the remains of Suzy. Who knows what it contained? It may have nothing to do with this case, but the fact that John Cannan has always been a suspect, that he was apparently seen talking to Suzy on the day of her disappearance, he's been convicted of another murder of a woman very near to the time that Suzy goes missing. He's known to be a predator of women. Surely, you know, I'm kind of 90% certain here that John Cannan did it. It might not be. It could be somebody else. Suzy could have run away and could be living her best life somewhere in another country. Personally, I don't believe that's true, and I'm quite convinced that John Cannan murdered Suzy Lamplugh. So anyway, guys, I'd love your thoughts and views on this new information in the Suzy Lamplugh case, missing case that's been going on since 1986. 35 long years of Suzy's family and friends not knowing what happened to her. Wouldn't it be great if there really is a break in this case and that John Cannan could be found guilty of the murder, or if it's not John Cannan, whoever's responsible could be brought to justice. I really do hope so. So as always, guys, I'd love your thoughts and views on the case. What do you think happened to Suzy? Do you think John Cannan's involved? Do you think the police bungled the investigation and didn't get enough information on John Cannan in the early days, where if it was him, they could have got more evidence and caught him? Do you think that Ipswich murderer Steve Wright could have some involvement here and that John Cannan has nothing to do with it? Do you think Suzy Lamplugh could have run away, wanted to go and live her best life in another country, just didn't want to be in England anymore? Or something similar. She could have gone and run away and tried to start a new life somewhere within the UK. It's really hard to know what really did happen to Suzy. So anyway, guys, as I always say, like and subscribe if you can to my channel. I really appreciate your support. If you know anyone that likes true crime, send them in the direction of my channel. I'd be extremely grateful. And it's been really sad looking back into the case of Suzy. I really hope that the new developments that have occurred in the last couple of months bring some justice for Suzy and some closure to her family and friends. And I really hope that one day the mysterious disappearance of Suzy Lamplugh will finally be solved.